Hello, welcome back. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and this is part 3 to the 1840 report on the American Bible Society. And now we've got to the point where we will cover the different books, the Bible versions, the American Bible Society, or this person who has covered this report has stated. The Geneva Bible, the New Testament, is available online. There are several versions of this. Some have good notes, some have reasonable notes, and some have simply bad and wrong notes. The grayscale version of the Geneva Bible of 1560 is usually good. The version of the Bible by scholar J. Green is good. It is translated from both the right and accurate Old Testament and New Testament accurate text. Okay, is he hinting that it's from the original, ancient, very old, sacred scribal, old tongue, long dead tongue, or language, the Lishana Artika, Cypriot, of the original ancient very old Kitab Asherit, or Assyrian Aramaic, or Syrian Aramaic, and the Galilean Aramaic New Testament from the ancient Church of the East. That's what asking there. It doesn't restate it. It just says Old Testament and New Testament accurate text, possibly from the Greek. If you are using, well, then would that be from the original ancient very old Koine Greek, which is akin to the Aramaic, the ancient very old Aramaic. If you are using a version of the Old or the New Testament that is modern, you should check to find out if it was accomplished or translated using a Hebrew or Greek text provided by something called the United Bible Societies, UBS. Most modern translations come from that text, or the American Bible, right? And that is why they almost always seem the same. That is also why they have almost no spiritual power within them. The meaning and portions of words and verses have been continually shaved off, altered and rearranged. They continue to deny this, and students and scholars continue to find proof that they have indeed changed much. There are between 3,000 to 5,000 changes at least between the historic text of the New Testament in Greek that the Church used for 2,000 years. Would that be Koine Greek? Attica Greek or Attic Greek, and the versions now offered by the United Bible Societies. They do not like to talk about this, though their usual approach is to ignore the question or refuse to have a conversation. They also hire people who are good debaters, whose salaries they usually pay, or who sit on the board of translation projects that have a relationship to the UBS or the United Bible Societies. The UBS, most common Greek New Testament version, is the Nestle Aland. That is simply a renamed version of the false version of Westcott and Hort, and of the corrupt versions used by Westcott and Hort. In fact, around the world, no matter what the language, when it comes to UBS, you will find that they are a Westcott and Hort. Cooperation with people and forces who have a vested interest in change to the text. With people and forces who have a vested interest in change to the text of the New Testament and the Old Testament. In changes, it should read, to the text of the New Testament and the Old Testament. The more you study, the more you will find this is the case, not the least in the case of UBS. They allowed by contract the Vatican to have veto, what is that, like total control or first control over the contents of all UBS editions since the 1960s. Those want the source for the statement will find the proof. These people should proofread before they publish it. Those wanting the source for this statement will find the proof in the book 50 Years of UBS. You can also find more in the book The Hidden History of Westcott and Hort and their work, available online. Which is best, new books or old books? Let's jump right into it. We are often taught in this day and age that the new books are the up-to-date or upgraded place to find information, and that the older books are 1. Irrelevant, 2. Boring, and 3. Overly detailed. The truth is that there is a lot of information in the old books that many people do not want you to know about. If you learn that information, you may learn what really happened, and then you would learn to ask inconvenient questions. That is true in the area of history, and that is also true in the area of religious freedom and religion. Most of the books today are written at about a 5th grade level. Most books today have only about 30% of the standard length of most books of the past. Most authors of the past not only knew English, but also knew Latin, ancient Greek and French, and other languages. It was normal for a person who was learning to learn several languages. That practice did not stop until right before World War I. So the older generations were not more ignorant or less educated. On the contrary, that would apply to most of us today, and we now are still trying to catch up. Okay, I guess this might be some books that they're saying that you should have a look at. Hal Lindsey. Yeah, got a couple of books on that guy, by that guy. Free online books. The Puritan Bible by Heaton, part of a trilogy, illustrated. This is the one that King James he disliked. Okay, so that's why he called for a new translation in English. He organised that commission, etc. Historical evidences of the truth of the scriptures records by Rawlinson. Yes, you have a look at those in your own time, at your own leisure. Let's just go back. The Bible and Modern Criticism by R.A. Anderson. Sayce, Monument Facts and Higher Critical Fancies, and so forth. Problems with the BFBS, the British and Foreign Bible Society. Reasons for declining to assist in the extrication of Dr. Thompson's by Dr. Adam Thompson, James Brydone, elder of the United Presbyterian Church. Divine inspiration, or the supernatural influence exerted in the communication of divine truth, and its special bearing on the composition of the sacred scriptures, with notes and illustrations, 1847, by Ebenezer Henderson, 1784 to 1858. Disliked by the BFBS because he exposed the mistranslation of scriptures as far back as the 1800s. He wrote many good books and commentaries. The books of the Old and New Testaments proved to be canonical, and the verbal inspiration and maintained and established with an account of the introduction and character of the Apocrypha, 1832. Keep in mind these are all the books that this writer is recommending. Books of the Old and New Testaments proved to be canonical, and their verbal inspirations maintained and established with an account of the introduction and character of the Apocrypha, 1832. by Robert. Try this. Okay, that is that. Okay, it's double. By Robert Haldane, 1764 to 1842. His books also expose and refute the work of some of the errant BS. Is that? Yeah, British and Foreign Bible Society translations. Review of the conduct of the directors of the British and Foreign Bible Society relative to the Apocrypha and to the administration on the continent Europe, with an answer to the Reverend C. Simeon and observations on the Cambridge and etc. A letter to the Right Honourable the Earl of Shaftesbury. The Inspiration and Accuracy of the Holy Scriptures, 1895, by John Urquhart. Constitution of the American Bible Society, 1816. You will notice that this constitution only gives authorization to publish the authorized version of Scriptures. The version now in common use, which in 1816 was the King James Version. Their charter was changed in 1904 to allow the revised version of Westcott and Hort, which then also replaced the Textus Receptus. The original 1816 ABS, American Bible Society Constitution, is available online for free. Which is Proceedings of the Bible Convention, which met in Philadelphia April 26, 27, 28 and 29, 1837. This is the documentation for the founding of the American and Foreign Bible Society. And that was, we covered that in the very first video, the description. This happened after the ABS began to publish versions for India, such as the Bengali versions and so forth. Okay, the ASB, American Bible Society Report of 1840. That's the one we covered in our first two videos, which admits that the American Bible Society was promoting Roman Catholic editions, even the deeply flawed Vaticanus-based Latin Vulgates. See the work of Fulker. First, at a time when the Inquisition was still taking place, and second, on the basis of accepting to have versions censored by certain Roman Catholic nations. Regrettable for a Protestant Bible Society, but true. Explains much about the degeneration of modern English versions, also published by these same Bible Societies. Does the revised version affect the New Testament by Thurkeston? Life of Kanamori by Kanamori on the dangers of mistranslations, etc. The Only Begotten God article online, which exposes some of the mistranslations of Tregelles, the textual critic who convinced the BFBS to reject the historic Textus Receptus in favour of the Nestle Westcott Hort version of the Nestle Aland, shows the weak and problematic translations of Tregelles. Universities are using universalism, a modern invention, and not according to godliness, by Andrew Royce, 1837. By Professor John William Bergen, Oxford. Go backwards. Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, we already covered that, so on to the next one. The Seventh General Council, the Second of Nicaea, held AD 787, in which the worship of images, 1850, doctrinal issues of importance in today's world, rapidly returning to idolatry. 4 sermons on the doctrine of regeneration, according to Scripture, in the Church of England, by George Stanley Faber, 1853. The meaning and use of the term baptizing, philologically and historically investigated by T.J. Conant. Whether this topic personally matters to you is irrelevant. The reason is that, frankly, that topic of salvation by baptism matters to millions and millions of people. So you should know what the accurate understanding of the words are in the Bible, and you should have the proof that you need to defend the biblical point of view. This book provides that to you, available online. Yeah, we had a bit of a debate. Well, we shouldn't really have argued about it because, yeah, we were really in agreement, but, you know, it just went like that. Yeah, without realising it, we're actually both in agreement. But you have a look up the word, I think it's baptizo in the Greek. and it gives you the actual definition of it. That baptism, your salvation is not dependent on baptism. Okay. There's many verses that they point at, that states that. Studies in the book of Daniel by R.E. Wilson and so forth. Books on textual criticism and archaeology by Robert R.A. Anderson. Books by Professor John William Bergen, Oxford. Okay, there's many here. The Pontifical Decrees Against the Doctrine of the Earth's Movement, and by William W. Roberts, so forth. Books on the issues of defence of the biblical text and historical doctrines in Roman Catholicism. It's all there. The Papal System by Cathcart. The Israel of the Alps by Muston, 2 volumes. A history of the Church that explains and documents how the Waldensians and other independent evangelicals predated, came before. The formation of the Roman Catholic hierarchy, written in English but with much documentation in other languages. Many sources, a French edition of this exists also. There's many more here. The Difficulties of Romanism by George Stanley Faber, Philadelphia Tower and Hogan, 1829. In the Old Testament. New Testament in Hebrew by C.D. Ginsburg, 1800s. Note, accurate New Testaments in Hebrew are very difficult to find, and most modern versions use the wrong text. Instead, consider the King James of 1611, not the changed NKJV, the Geneva Bible, or the modern English New Testament of J. Green, which is translated from the correct and accurate ancient Greek text, which is the historic Textus Receptus of Stevens. What is the accurate Hebrew Old Testament? The second rabbinic Bible of Ben Chaim bin Hakim, Jacob bin Chaim ibn Adonijah, produced in Venice in 1525 at a workshop of Daniel Bomberg. Again, these are all recommended, so you know the real truth. Okay, there's plenty more here. Codex B and its allies by Professor Hoskier, deals with NKJV, etc. Please note, what's this? Codex B and its allies by Professor Hoskier, deals with NKJV, von Soden, etc. Greek manuscripts and what the problems are between Codex Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, which contradict each other in thousands of places. It has a note here. If you find any of the books to be inaccurate, then by all means please refute them or disregard them using documentation and proof. Most people who object to almost any of these books have one feature in common: they have not actually read them. Right? They've not actually read the books they are objecting to for themselves. Often those who criticise the books also have one main goal: to prevent others from actually reading the books. This tactic is used by certain professors, sometimes also false biblical critics, to discourage intellectual inquiry, where if the students were to actually read the words censored or banned by the professors, plenty of documentation and information will be found to refute the false premises being advanced. Also, do please continue to pray for us, we need it, etc., etc. Yeah, it basically states that they've got some sort of hidden motive, agenda, right? They're propagandists. They want to keep you from the truth. Or is this not moving? Okay, maybe that's the end of it, I'm not sure. Yeah, 168 of 68. So that's the end of that one. Let's go back here. Yeah, that's the end of that. Okay, so what we're going to do, and I was going to smaller here. You can scroll down to the bottom here. These are all the information we gave you in the first video, the description, and the excerpt. Okay, is this the same? Okay, this is the description, part of the challenge, more. Okay, quite long, more comment. I think we've already covered that in the first video. Probably a few more. Oh yeah, we covered all of this. Right, because down here we found that there's the story of the American Bible Society. Was it 1920? 1919? Okay, report. I think that's the one we just covered. American Bible Society, there's heaps of books here, right? Which will probably give more in-depth, hopefully, on the scriptures that they are saying, you know, the lies that they're telling, the corruptions and lies, etc., is detailed in the video underneath by the Brian guy with the glasses, the beard and the glasses. Yeah, who says that these Roman Catholic translations of the Hebrew Greek text from Martin Luther throughout the centuries are corrupt. They have lies put out there by the American Bible Society. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. Probably in part 4 we're still striving to find scripture that they contradict, right? That they lie, you know, they've twisted, etc., etc. Right? As the Brian guy again says, just a whole bunch of lies put out there through the American Bible Society, and the lies, corruption, etc., by those American Bible Societies. Okay, this is a shorter one, shorter video. Yeah, so let's take the time to have a look at these ones, right? This one here, the Bible works of the American Bible Societies in Japan. Yeah, we have a look at those. These are annual reports of the American Bible Society and so forth. This is probably the origins of it, story of the origins. So we may do a part 4 and hopefully cover those extensively. Greetings, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we're continuing our look at the American Bible Society. Today we have found this book, Story of the American Bible Society 1919, and here's a picture of General Pershing, obviously a general from World War I, and the American Bible Society, New York. You see inside, officers of the American Bible Society. All listed there, managers, rather like the other video we had, part 3, we listed all of those. Contents, introduction 5 to 9, war service and detailed results, issues in circulation, staff changes, etc., etc. Translation and revision 24 to 25, that's what we'd be interested in. Results worthwhile, methods employed, growing tolerance of Catholic Church priests and people, etc. Okay, here's some advertising with some quote. This characteristically brief cable had peculiar significance for 4 important reasons. One, it was from General Pershing, the man and the soldier, 2. It was the commander of the American forces in France. 3. It was sent on March 24th, 3 days after the Great German Offensive, called into full action for the first time. General Pershing, by giving time and thought to the sending of this cable at such a juncture, indicated clearly the importance he attached to the subject. 4. The War Department, by transmitting the cable, indicated its sympathy, of which indeed the very highest evidence came through 2 letters from the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Army and Navy, President Woodrow Wilson, commending and encouraging the service of the American Bible Society. Story of the American Bible Society, 1919. The never to be forgotten year of 1918 has become past history and will never or will ever be remembered as one of the most important and critical in the world's chronicles here, because it was the first Great War, supposedly to be the last, but then they had World War II, etc., etc. It was a year that witnessed the final desperate death, struggle and slaughter of the greatest world tragedy, which terminated with startling suddenness at the 11th hour of the 11th day in the 11th month of the year. Very uncanny. Though the armistice was signed and the Great War ceased, yet it was followed by revolutions, Bolshevism and a score of minor wars that still rage. At that point, I suppose, in that time, it was a year of untold suffering, toil and trouble, a year of despair ending in a year of hope, a year of highly developed scientific warfare with its diabolical mechanisms for the destruction of life, followed by a vision of enduring peace and brotherhood by the establishment of a League of Nations and the limitation of armament, a year in which brute force and autocracy were vanquished and the Christian principles of justice, mercy, liberty and morality gained the victory. Okay. Mobilization of spiritual forces, but the greatest victory of the war was the mobilization and effective use of great spiritual forces. Some of our greatest men have testified that the war was a spiritual contest against the world, the flesh and the devil. Witness the unprecedented amounts given for war charities. Think of the spiritual influences exerted through the Army and Navy chaplains, the YMCA, YWCA, WCTU, Red Cross and Salvation Army workers. Recall a remarkable celerity, etc., etc. We watched a movie, the Auschwitz Report, or the Auschwitz Escape, about 2 brothers that were helped by their fellow Slovaks and Jews or whatever, prisoners, to escape, to get this. They felt they needed to get the information because they were really good at crunching numbers, these Jews, etc. Even this German officer went mad at them and says, "You're great at crunching the numbers," right? Because they had had the numbers of the Slovaks that were there, the Jews, women and children, those who had been shot, etc., tortured, gassed, and so forth. They had all the numbers, right? That's how great they were with numbers. So they tried to get it to whoever would, believe them, the Allies who would believe them. And they finally got to this destination through different people's helps. And they went through a lot. And it took these Americans 7 months before they accepted it as credible, right? Because apparently the Red Cross had sent this innumerable number of packages to the Germans, head officers or the Nazis or whatever, right? These different departments, to give aid to these prisoners. So they knew about it, right? But these 2 brothers says they never got there. They never received any of those packages, right? Possibly the Germans used it for themselves, or these Nazis, whatever, all that sort of stuff, right? They never received them. A lot of these people starved to death and stuff like that. Yeah, it was based on a true story. Yeah, brilliant. You can go see it on 123 Movies. Yeah, it's in Polish. I think it might be Polish or something like that. But you can click on the subtitles and the English will come up. I think it's on 123movies.com. It's called the Auschwitz Report, but it's actually called the Escape, the Auschwitz Escape, but in that language it's the Auschwitz Report. Yeah, really, really good. All the crap that these poor prisoners went through, right? But these Red Cross must have known about it, right? Because they said on this movie, it's based on a true story, right? So the wording could be wrong, but they says, we sent so many packages to aid, through the prisoners in these camps through our Nazi contacts or they say administration or whatever. And they says, well, they never got them.